Can, can you make a house out of toothpaste? And this one isn't funny. When ghost hunts become deadly, today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, thanks for coming back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I probably should have reversed the order of those two stories that I introduced because one, I can't really say with a straight face, and in the other, a young man unfortunately lost his life. It's actually pretty recent too. We'll be getting that into in a moment, but I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day. Hope you're enjoying this massive heat wave we're having. You'll hear the occasional car drive by for two reasons. One, I'm recording during the day, which I normally don't do, and my window's open, because if I had my windows shut, I would become a steamed ham in here. All my fans are off, so at least I'm able to eliminate that noise, but I gotta have a window open. We'll try to silence out the cars as much as possible, but we'll go ahead and, I think we're gonna go ahead and just get started. It's so hot. So we're gonna go ahead and just jump right into it and see where this little, because this mystery is a little winding. It takes you in some weird places. Now, before I get started, of course there's always before I get started, I need to reach out to you guys to see if I'm the only person who does this. I realized that there's something that I call shower protocol, right? And I just realized this the other day. I take a shower in the exact same order every single time. I just realized this. Turn the shower on, obviously. And the first thing I always do is wash my left arm. Then I wash my genitals. Why are they called genitals? Because everyone only has one. Is it just my genital? Because it's just one of them, right? But anyways, so I wash down there. And then, man, those cars are going to drive me crazy. Okay, I'm going to go shut the window. Okay, so in the 30 seconds it took for me to walk to the windows, shut them, and walk back, I've already lost 15 pounds in water weight. I'll probably go on some sort of sweat lodge vision quest while I'm recording this episode. But shower protocol, so I'll wash my left arm first. Then I wash my genitals. Then I wash my right arm. And then I drop the soap for whatever reason. I always lose the soap at this point in my shower. And I get it. And then I wash my torso. Then I wash my legs. They will do either or. I never wash my back either. I've never soaped up my back. I just figured the water takes care of that. I realize that I do it the same way every single time I take a shower. I'm wondering if that is a Jason thing or if other people, subconsciously, they always wash themselves in the exact same order. Maybe it is just a Jason thing. Maybe that's the order of things. Oh, and I wash my butt. I left that out. When I say I don't wash my back, I do wash my butt. That actually comes after my right arm. And then I wash my butt. And then I wash my torso, which I guess I should probably change that order up. But I figure, soap. So all the bad stuff kind of gets washed off the soap, right? That's how it works. I might want to try to change that order, but is that just the Jason thing? I wonder if other people have a particular way they wash themselves, and it's never been a conscious decision, but I'm wondering if I'm basically washing the parts of my body in order of importance. So get back to me. Let me know let me know how you shower, people. I want to know what you're like. Naked and wet in the shower. Hit me up at deadrabbitradio@gmail.com. Let's go ahead and jump into the story, though. Just wanted to share that with you and get some feedback on that. Colgate forts is one of the conspiracy theories that pops up on our always discussed conspiracy theory iceberg list. Colgate forts. And actually, that's how I found out about our last story, Rannicott Fort. On the last episode, I was looking for Colgate forts, and then I was trying to figure out if that was a code for something, and so I started looking up charcoal forts. Took me to Rannicott Fort. But anyways, Colgate forts, the little bit of information I found was maybe one or two sentences on a website saying that Colgate forts was something that ex-Russian military officers did. They took a bunch of Colgate out to Siberia and they made houses out of it. So, of course, a normal person would go, no, that's ridiculous. But me, I began Googling, what is the freezing point of Colgate? Can you freeze toothpaste? How long does toothpaste stay frozen? I think I actually tried looking for stuff like, can you build a structure out of toothpaste? Now, here's the thing. Siberia is blisteringly cold. I read a book about the siege of
Leningrad.
I think it was just called It was an amazing book. So the story was about a symphony about and the orchestra in the city under siege by the Nazis trying to get people together to perform that Symphony as a propaganda tool. It was a great book. It's all non-fiction. It's all 100% true. There's a bunch of cannibalism in it. Women are like giving birth to babies and then eating them. There's roving gangs of cannibals having shootouts with the police. They had to form an anti-cannibalism brigade. It was such a huge problem. Towards the end,
Leningrad.
the symphony that started off with maybe had like 17 people left because they'd all gotten blown up. The constant shelling of the area. It's a great read. Very, very tragic yet uplifting story. One of the interesting things, though, was that the Nazis, they weren't prepared for the winter. They came in their light clothes, a lot of paratroopers and stuff like that. And one of the problems is it got so cold that you just had to poop your pants. You go, what does it have to do with being cold? And here's why. In the book, it says if you pulled your pants down to poop, your butthole would instantly freeze shut and you would die because you could never go poop again. You could never get warm enough to get your butthole loose enough to poop. So you just had to poop in your pants. That's miserable. Being in war is pretty bad, but being like, oh man, I hope I don't get shot and I get home to my girlfriend Isabella and, we're going to have a bunch of babies, and then your butthole freezes shut, and then you spend the next 3 or 4 days trying to figure out how to warm yourself up, and then you just die because your intestines explode. I guess at a certain point you'd stop eating because you wouldn't want to poop anymore, but I think at that point you're kind of SOL. Anyways, so I knew that the area that Russia's it's cold enough to freeze your butthole. I figured maybe you could build a structure out of toothpaste, because Siberia is even colder, right? Because it's Siberia. So I looked all over for, can you build a house out of Colgate? And the way that toothpaste is made, it really doesn't freeze that level. The water in it would freeze. And the more I researched it, the more I started thinking about how much toothpaste did these guys have? I mean, you would have to have a ton of toothpaste, like you have your satchel of your normal survival supplies, and then you would need basically a house, enough toothpaste to build a house, or even a hut or an igloo. And then once I realized that, I go, why don't they just build igloos? So I think Colgate forts, as far as this has been going, is busted. And then you're going, Jason, why are you wasting our time talking about something that is so foolish? And even when you're researching it, realize it was ridiculous. Well, this is why. This is the interesting part. The second question I was researching when I was looking at the Colgate forts was, why would Russian military go to Siberia to build these Colgate forts? Were they doing some sort of testing or something? What happened is, during the Russian Revolution, Russia had a ton of gold. Literal tons and tons of gold. And the anti-Bolsheviks were like, there's no way we're letting the communists get a hold of all this gold. So a bunch of ex-military officers did run away to Siberia, like came from the original Colgate story. But they didn't take Colgate with them. They took the wealth of an entire nation to Siberia. That happened back in 1918. They've never been able to find it. They looked all over for it. There's always these rumors, and cryptographers were looking, because they had a coded sheet of coordinates. But no one could find it. It was basically the Russian equivalent of the Lost Dutchman's Mind, or the City of Gold. It had become a legend. What happened to this gold? Would anyone ever find it? Last year, they found it. So, fellow Dead Rabbit Radio listeners, if you were in Russia and you wanted to hide something where you hoped no one would ever find it, out of the entire continent of Eurasia, you have everything from Moscow. Well, you don't want it in Moscow because the commies are there, but you go all the way east, deep into Siberia. Where would you put something if you wanted to make sure that no one would find it and it would be protected? Would you put it somewhere, say, where aliens lived underwater? Yep. Out of the entire continent of Eurasia, the gold was found at Lake Baikal. Lake Baikal, you may recall, was actually the lake that we talked about earlier in the series, where they had the giant alien creatures swimming underwater, apparently, and they were able to throw frogmen, not literal frogmen, but Russian frogmen up into the air, and there were supposed to be UFOs down there. And of all the places they could have hid the gold, they hid it there. More specifically, they hid it in a railway tunnel. And after 100 years of mystery of trying to find this gold, which may have been dropped there to be protected by monsters or aliens. So, maybe like they figured, we've heard legends of monsters out here, or they knew there were monsters out there and they dumped the gold. Or it's also possible that people who did dump the gold there began those legends to scare people off from that area. But anyways, after 100 years of trying to figure out this location of this gold, it was a mathematics genius who found a Russian mathematics genius who the media is not releasing his name because he's wanted by the FBI for the hacking of Hillary Clinton's email. It's not Guccifer 2.0, but it's somebody that the FBI believes hacked Hillary Clinton's email. Not like that would have been super hard. It was, just an unsecured server. But that aside, he's the guy who's under suspicion for hacking Hillary Clinton's server. It took him an hour once he got the cryptogram. Once he got this note of this coded cryptogram of where this gold was that people have been looking at for their entire lives for over a century, he looked at it for an hour and said, oh, here it is. And they went there, and it was there as in a railway tunnel under Lake Baikal, and now billions and billions of gold, billions of US dollars in gold, not billions of gold, but billions of dollars in gold is headed back to Russia. They're moving it back. So he found it, and he'll probably get some sort of medal on his chest, but they won't reveal who it is because, FBI is looking for him. But interesting story. All came out of a stupid idea that somehow you could build a fort. I'm not denying that you could build a house out of Colgate. That's maybe possible if it's cold enough, and it probably is cold enough over there. My question is, you just build an igloo, dude. Like, how much Colgate would you need? What would be the advantage? Wouldn't that stand out more? You're looking in the woods for a bunch of Russian soldiers, and you see, like, a white mound of, like, igloo, and then another white mound of igloo, and then you see, like, a red, white, and blue minty fresh igloo off in the distance. Where are you going to check first? Where are you going to look? I know they didn't have the... even if they didn't have, like, the red and blue coloring back then on the Colgate, you could still smell the minty freshness from across the tundra. A moose would be, like, licking on it and stuff. Just use ice. The other story I wanted to talk about today, which was sad, so I was looking for we kind of did a series last week, which was food-based conspiracies. I really like doing that. I thought it gave a lot of structure to the show. So I was looking for stuff about murderous ghosts. I think that's going to be one of the next series we do. Ghosts who have killed people. And while I was looking for that, I actually found this. It just happened on June 4th. In Seattle, these kids there's this haunted park in Seattle. And they're like, hey, yeah, let's go Scooby-Doo around this park, and we'll take our flashlights, and maybe we'll see, like, old Mary Keller, the ghost who drowned 8 babies and floats here every Friday the 13th or whatever. Now, I used to do stuff like that. Me and my friends used to load up in the car. Gasoline used to be 99 cents a gallon, so you could just drive anywhere all the time. And we'd go to all these sort of haunted locations in Sacramento. We'd visit, this place would be rumored, and this place would be rumored, and we'd just go to, like, creepy wooded areas in general to see if we could, like, sense anything or see anything. One day, me and my friends were driving on the road. We thought we saw a Civil War ghost. And it totally terrified us. It was this, like, all gray figure. And it looked like he was wearing, like, a Confederate uniform. And it was just, like, walking down the street. It was super scary. And we're like, oh, my God, it's like a Civil War ghost. It's a Civil War ghost. And we turned around. At first, I thought, it's just us, like, not... It's just all of our imaginations or whatever. So we turn around. We come back. He's still walking down the road. And it's, like, 3 a.m. And we couldn't figure it out. And he's head to toe in gray clothes, a little gray cap. And we're like, oh, my God, he's still there. It's the Civil War ghost. And we drove back around, and we came, and this is, again, in the middle of nowhere. There was, like, an industrial section there, and then this long road. It was out in PFE, if you know the area, out by Antelope. But we come by a third time, and it was a very elderly security guard. It was not a Civil War ghost, which, look, one, we probably scared the crap out of him because we were driving by 3 times, and it's not the most well-behaved area. But two, thinking back to it, I think even that night we're like, why would a Confederate ghost be in Northern California? That would be quite the well-traveled ghost. But, so, we did stuff like that. We'd go out to all these places, and this young kid named Ryan Dela Cruz was at Martha Washington Park with some friends, and they're looking around for ghosts. They're having a good old time, just, having fun, being kids. And he gets shot 3 times. A car drives by and just opens fire on them. And the friends call 911, and cops come, and he's still alive, but by the time he got to the hospital, he had passed away. At this point, so that was on June 4th. As of today, July 24th, they have no leads, or they're not revealing any leads. In the article they say they don't think it's gang related. Generally, that means that both members weren't members of gangs. It can be gang related. It's not considered gang related if a gang shoots a civilian. It's only considered gang related as if one gang shoots at another gang. They don't think the man was targeted either. They think it was it may be related to another shooting. What I think is weird is they're really keeping this close to their chest. The police aren't revealing many suspects about this. This isn't huge news. The only reason I stumbled across it was, and Seattle's fairly close to me. The only reason I stumbled across it was because I was looking for murderous ghosts, and unfortunately I stumbled across this story of a man who was murdered looking for a ghost. So, it's sad, it's tragic, and hopefully the assholes who did this get caught. Because, accident or not, if they just thought they were shooting in the woods because they were drunk hillbillies, or if they were shooting in the woods because they saw some people out there, there's maybe different levels of punishment for that, but, they need to be taken care of, and, obviously what's going on, these friends and stuff have to deal with this. I give it a month tops before his ghost, and I'm doing air quotes here, his ghost is haunting that area. The rumors have probably already started that now if you go out into the woods on a Saturday night, you can see his bloody body floating through the woods, which is sad. It's easy for us to discuss ghost stories when they're hundreds of years past, and it's like, oh, Mary Martland fell off this bridge, and now her broken-necked body comes and she tickles you. That's easier for us to kind of deal with, but ghost stories do develop fairly quickly. So I'm sure his ghost story is already there. Kids are always like, oh, don't go out of the woods. Ryan will get you. And then, of course, you could always say, well, maybe nobody shot him. Maybe it was some sort of ghostly activity that shot him. I don't believe that. But again, that rumor will spread too. Oh, they never caught the guys because he wasn't actually shot. It was this ghost attack and blah, blah, blah. The reason why I'm telling you this story is because I know a lot of you guys, if not all of you, are interested in paranormal activity, ghost hunting, stuff like that. Be careful. I know that when we did it, when we jumped in the car and we drove to wooded areas, I always brought weapons with me, bats and mace, and California's really hard to carry a gun. I know a lot of you live in other states where that's far more permissible. But my number one fear when I was going down to those areas was dogs, and the second fear was hobos. I don't know if anyone uses the word hobos anymore, but you know what I mean, coming across transients. My third fear was ghosts, the Blair Witch, Bigfoot, the lizard man. But, just protect yourself. That may not have helped it. That wouldn't help this gentleman if he had a bat. It's not really going to help him. But, there is a level of danger when you're going into an area at night. All sorts of things can go wrong. Oh, and the other thing is when I brought groups in, when I was running with my friends in these areas, everyone had to have a cell phone on them. And this was a while back, so not everyone had cell phones, but we'd want to have at least 3 or 4 cell phones. Sometimes I even had extra cell phones because I'm not going to get into why I had extra cell phones, but you always want to have that line of communication because really what you're doing is you're going out into an relatively uncivilized area at night and nobody knows where you're going because you don't know where you're going. You hop in the car and you're like driving around and then they're like, hey, yeah, let's go out to Old Potterman's Creek and see if the ghost is still there. It's not like you ever had a map, so you want to this is my tips for ghost hunting, for doing this kind of fun ghost hunting to stay safe. Bring a weapon, bring a form of communication. Have fun, and be aware of your surroundings at all times. That will at least give you a leg up over... Oh, and don't go out there drunk either, because again, I'm not worried about you getting drunk and getting assaulted by a ghost. I'm worried about you getting drunk and falling down a ravine. Stuff like that. Trespassing, I trespassed before. I'm not going to tell you not to trespass. That just comes along with the territory. Just be mindful of your situation. If the police show up, be respectful and talk your way out of the situation. And if not, you get the ticket. Police show up, you get busted, you take the ticket. If someone tells you get out, you just leave. Those are my tips. Like, that will happen. Cops show up and you're drunk and you're underage. Now you have a problem. Cops show up and you're belligerent. Now you have a problem. We've been stopped by the cops before. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, just hunting for ghosts. Haha, you guys are idiots. Get out. Okay, officer. No biggie. No biggie. So those are my tips. I hope that the killers of this young man are caught, and I hope they're caught soon. And I hope they get swift justice, and I hope his family finds peace. It's a terrible story. And I really hope people don't exploit his death to cause some sort of ghost story, but knowing neighborhood kids, they probably will. So that unfortunately just comes along with the game. So be safe when you do this stuff as well. So that's going to be it for today's episode. There's a puddle of water on the floor. And that is mostly my sweat and maybe some of my tears from having to sit in this hot room. But I hope you enjoyed my sacrifice. I enjoyed doing it. I could have done it later at night, but sometimes I like recording these day shows. You can hit me up at deadrabbitradio@gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/deadrabbitradio. We are also on Twitter at Jason O. Carpenter. That's my real name. We're just kind of keeping it casual with that one. We got our YouTube channel, Dead Rabbit Radio. That's where we take excerpts from this show. Dead Rabbit Radio is a daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. We will be back tomorrow with some other great mysterious stories for you, and I hope you tune in. Have a great day.